Hello everyone. Today I will take up the NCERT Class 12th History, Volume 3, the themes of Indian history chapter, the colonialism and countryside. It is the 10th chapter of Volume 3. Colonialism is a process in which colonies are acquired and established in economically, politically and socially imbalanced countries of Asia and Africa by the colonial powers or imperial powers or the Western countries, particularly England, Spain, Portugal, French, etc. Countryside means village side. We have to see the condition, what was the status in the countryside during the East India Company rule and thereafter. These are the three important contents we have to cover in this chapter. The first one is the Jamindars of Bengal, where their Jamindaris were actioned because of non-payment of revenue as per the agreement stipulated between the Jamindar and East India Company after the amalgamation of permanent settlement by Cornwallis in the year 1793. Next important content we have to study in this chapter is the Paharias and Santals of Rajmahal Hills. Rajmahal Hills located in Jharkhand, extending a little part of West Bengal also. Two important tribal communities had their influence, they are Paharias and Santals. Third important topic we have to discuss in this chapter is Mumbai Deccan or Bombay Deccan, because in history we cannot say Mumbai, Bombay Deccan, but unfortunately this year 2020-21 the CBSE has removed the third topic, the Bombay Deccan. So we have to cover the first and second, the Jamindars of Bengal and Paharias, Santals of Rajmahal Hills. Establishment of British Raj, that is East India Company rule in Bengal. Bengal was the first place where East India Company was established its status and position. In 1757, they defeated Sirajuddaulah, the Nawab of Bengal, in the Battle of Plassey. Plassey is located in Bengal. There one important battle held in 1757 between Sirajuddaulah and Robert Clive, the governor of Bengal. In 1757, in that battle, the Sirajuddaulah was badly defeated. The East India Company installed a puppet Nawab on the Bengal Suba, Bengal state. He is Mir Jafar. Again in the year 1764, they had one more battle at Buxar. They fought this time with Mir Qasim, the Nawab of Bengal, in the Battle of Buxar, which gave them the Diwani right. Buxar is located in Bihar because there was a treaty signed in 1764. After, in that treaty, that is Allahabad Treaty, according to Allahabad Treaty, the East India Company got the Diwani right. Diwani right means collection of revenue in the state of Bengal. Bengal state is not only Bengal of today. Bengal is covering parts of Orissa, Bihar, Assam and East Bengal also, that is Bangladesh today. These are Plassey and Buxar. Important terms you have to know in this chapter. Raja. Raja means king, but now Rajas have lost their power. Jamindars, powerful landowners of rural India. Jameen means land, dar means holder. Jamindar means landholder. Jamindari. Jameen means land, dari means estate, that is land of Jamindar. Jameen means land, dar means holder. Talukdar means ones who hold a taluk, a territorial unit in northern India and South India also. In some states like Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, but in Andhra we call it as Mandal. Rayat means peasants or cultivator or farmer or peasant, whatever you can call, all denote the same meaning. Jotedars, rich landlords of rural Bengal, particularly in North Dinajpur district of West Bengal. The Rajas, these are all Jamindars, these are all Jamindari mahals, and these are all Talukdars of our state. These are Rayat, and these are all Jotedars. Jotedars are rural landlords of North Dinajpur. Bengal and the Jamindars. This is Bengal Jamindar. Which are the palaces or estates held by Bengal Jamindars. Colonial rule was first established in Bengal after the battles of Plassey and Buxar. It is here that the earliest attempts were made to reorder rural society and establish a new regime of land rights and a new revenue system which was established first in Bengal only, that is the permanent settlement in the year 1793 by Karan Walis. Thereafter, two more revenue settlements were established, that is Mahalwari system and the Rayatwari system. But in this chapter, we have to discuss only the permanent settlement which was introduced by Karan Walis in the year 1793. An action in Bardwan. Bardwan is a district in West Bengal, very close to Calcutta, just 100 kilometers, below 100 kilometers of Calcutta. It is known as Bardhaman. In those days it was known as Bardhaman, today it is called Bardhaman. In 1787 there was an action in Bardhaman or Bardhaman, present day Bardhaman. It was a big public event. This is a Bardhaman located in this is the Hooghly district, this Calcutta, Hooghly and Howrah, and this is Bardhaman, one of the districts in the southern part of the Bengal. A number of mahals, estates held by the Raja of Bardhaman were being sold out because he was not paid the revenue collected according to the terms of permanent settlement 1793. These are the mahals actioned by the East India Company to collect or fetch revenue from the Raja. The permanent settlement had come into operation in the year 1793, which was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. The East India Company had fixed the revenue that each Jamindar had to pay. The estates of those who failed to pay were to be auctioned to recover the revenue. Since the Raja had accumulated huge areas in his estates and had been put up for action, the Raja of Jamindar, Raja or Jamindar both are same, don't get confusion, is a Jamindar of Bardhaman, a small district in West Bengal. Over 95% of the sale at the action was fictitious. It is not genuine. It is just fictitious sales were taking place because of the Raja sent his own agents and associates to take part in the action to regain its hold. The problem of unpaid revenue is Cornwallis, who had been there in Bengal in the position of second Governor General after Lord Warren Hastings. It is only just limited to Bardhaman Jamindari. It is not only limited to Bardhaman Jamindari. Over 75% of the Jamindaris changed hands after the permanent settlement after 1793. The objective of introducing permanent settlement was not fulfilled due to the recurrent famine by 17 and declining agricultural output. But in the 17th century, continuously famine took place in and 18th century also in Bengal, due to which this permanent settlement was not a quite successful revenue settlement which was introduced in a better position. If the revenue demand of the state was permanently fixed, then the company could look forward to a regular flow of revenue. After a prolonged debate amongst company officials, a permanent settlement was made with the Rajas and the Talukdars of Bengal. They were now classified as Jamindars and they had to pay the revenue demand that was fixed perpetuity. Jamindars had several, sometimes as many as 400 villages under their custody. They have to look after all these 400 villages. They have to collect taxes from all these villages. In company's calculations, the villages within Jamindari formed one revenue estate. The company fixed the total demand over the entire estate, whose revenue the Jamindari contracted to pay. The Jamindars collected rent from the different villages, paid the revenue to the company means East India Company, and retained the differences at his income. He was expected to pay the company regularly, failing which his estate could be auctioned. Why Jamindars become defaulters, or why Jamindar defaulted on payments? Company officials felt that a fixed revenue demand would give Jamindars a sense of security and assured of returns on their investment, encourage them to improve their estates. In the early decades after the permanent settlement, however, the Jamindars regularly failed to pay the revenue demand and unpaid balances accumulated. The reason for this failure were various. Some of them are given below. First important reason is that the initial demand was very high. This was because it was felt that if the demand was fixed for all time to come, the company would never be able to claim a share of increased income from land when prices rose and cultivation expanded. To minimize this anticipated loss, the company pegged the revenue demand high. Second important reason is that this demand was imposed in the 1790s, a time when the prices of agricultural production was depressed, making it difficult for them to pay the revenue. For the ryots to pay their dues to the Jamindar. If the Jamindar could not collect this rent, now could he pay the company? Arguing that burden on Jamindars would gradually decline as agricultural production. Third important reason is that the revenue was invariable regardless of the harvest and had to be paid punctually. In fact, according to the sunset law, this is very important as far as examination point is concerned. Sometimes they may ask you 1 mark. If payment did not come in by sunset of the specified date, the Jamindari was liable to be actioned. Fourth important reason is that the permanent settlement initially limited the power of the Jamindar to collect rent from the Rayat and manage his Jamindari. He is a Scottish physician who made significant contributions as a geographer, geologist, botanist while living in India as an employee of East India Company. The rise of the Jotedars. Here all the Jotedars, a community, a landlord community in the rural Bengal, particularly in the Dinajpur district of Bengal. While many zamindars were facing a crisis at the end of the 18th century, a group of rich peasants were consolidating their position in the villages, particularly in the villages of Bengal, particularly in the districts of Dinajpur, West, North Dinajpur and South Dinajpur. In Francis Buchanan's survey of the Dinajpur district in North Bengal, we have a vivid description of this class of rich peasants known as Jotedars. They are Jotedars, and these are the places you can see here: the North Dinajpur, this is South Dinajpur, this is Malda district, this is, and you can say the Murshidabad district. These are all the neighboring areas of all these things. This is South Dinajpur, this is the entire Bengal state, and this is Malda, this is Murshidabad. All these districts are there. This is Darjeeling, Jalpaiguri, and here this district is Dinajpur. From this district, their number is more. By the early 19th century, Jotedars had acquired vast areas of land, sometimes as much as several thousand acres of land they accumulated. They become very influential persons. They became the traders, money lenders, and landlords in the villages of Bengal. They controlled the local trade as well as money lending business, exercising immense power over the poorer cultivators of that region. A large part of their land was cultivated through sharecroppers. Sharecroppers are also known as adhiyars or bargadars, who brought their plough, labored in the field, and handed over half of the produce to the jotedars after the harvest. Within the village, the power of jotedars was more effective than that of jamindar because jotedars lived in the villages, jamindars were living in the towns and cities. Unlike the jamindars, who often lived in the urban areas, jotedars were located in the villages and exercised direct control over a considerable section of poor villagers. This is the painting done by George Christie in the year 1820 and showing how the condition of the villages existed during the time of East India Company rule. The Jotedars were most powerful in North Bengal. In some places they were called Hauladars, elsewhere they were known as Gantidars or Mandals. Different names also we have to give for them. Their rise of Jotedars inevitably certainly weakened Jamindar authority. Jamindar has become very weak and weakened due to the oncoming of this new community Jotedar into the picture. This is what we can say the company, East India Company. Company means East India Company, which was founded in the year 1600 CE, Common Era, by the Queen of England. This is a private company. Below company we have Jamindars. They are controlling numerous villages, hundreds of villages, as we have seen that are around 100 to 400 villages they are controlling. Below them we have Rayat. Rayat is maybe of four categories. One is landlords like jotedars and marginal farmers, small farmers and landless. Rayat, then under Rayat, and we have those who are not having land. This is the picture we can see in the time of East India Company, the rural areas of Bengal and other parts of India also. The Jotedars of Dinajpur. Sometime a source-based question may come. Buchanan described the ways in which the Jotedars of Dinajpur here in North Bengal resisted being disciplined by the Jamindar and undermined his power. Landlords do not like this class of men, but it is evident that they are absolutely necessary unless the landlords themselves would advance money to their necessitous tenantry. The Jotedars who cultivate large portions of lands are very refractory and know that the Jamindars have no power over them. They pay only a few rupees account of their revenue and then fall in balance almost every kist. They hold more lands than they are entitled to by their pattas, deed of contracts. Who was Buchanan? Whom did he describe? You can answer it afterwards. Who were Jotedars? Mention the different names of Jotedars. What are pattas? In which area of Bengal Jotedars lived? All these four questions you have to do in your homework copy under source-based questions. Two strategies of Jamindars applied to retain their Jamindari. One is fictitious sale between 1793 and 1801. Four big Jamindaris of Bengal, including Bardhaman, made Binami purchases that collectively yielded as much as rupees 30 lakhs. Of the total sales at the action, over 15% were fictitious. Attacking outsider. When people from outsider used to come to take part in the action, the Jamindari to buy Jamindari bought an estate. Even if they buy Jamindari and bought an estate in action, they could not always take possession because of the nuisance created by the Latials. They are the agents of the Jamindar. At that times, agents would be attacked by the Latials. They were attacked by Latials of the former Jamindar. That's why what happened. And the outsider who is coming and even he is buying the land of the Jamindar could not survive because of the nuisance created by the Jamindari's persons. So this is resistance of Jamindars against the permanent settlement. The Jamindars once again strengthened in the beginning of 19th century, but in 1930s, due to Great Depression, they finally collapsed and Jotedars rose in the Bengal rural side. Binami. Binami, what do you mean by Binami? Binami literally means anonymous. Transaction made in the name of fictitious, insignificant person. Latial, one who wields the lathi or stick, function as a strong man of Jamindar, is like a gunda of present day politicians. Monopoly of East India Company opposed by many groups in Britain. Monopoly of East India Company opposed by traders, industrialists and political groups in England. Why they opposed, we will see. East India Company misgovernance, because its misgovernance and maladministration, they all opposed it, and there was a heated debate also took place in different parts of England. Demand put forth for revocation of royal order to control East India Company, because royal order says that East India Company was held a private body which was a commercial body in the year 1600 CE onwards. Now they are demanding that you should revoke this royal order and then give it as a public limited company so that and it is accountable and responsible. Otherwise what happened, the East India Company is giving misgovernance and maladministration in India. In 1773, to regulate this East India Company, they passed one act that is called Regulating Act by the British Parliament, regulating the activities of East India Company in our country. British government appointed a committee also to look into the matter and to inquire into the affairs of East India Company. The fifth report, 1830. The fifth report submitted to the British Parliament in 1813 by East India Company. It was the fifth series of reports submitted to British Parliament about the administration and pros and cons of East India Company in India. It consists of about 1000 pages, 1002 pages. Out of 1002 pages, 800 pages are exclusively appendices, petitions of zamindars and rayats, reports of collectors from different districts of India, statistical tabulations of revenue returns, notes and reports of revenue and judicial administration of all the three presidencies, that is Bombay, Madras and Calcutta. It is very valuable report to write to reconstruct the history of British in our country. The accounts of Buchanan in the early 19th century. Buchanan travelled extensively through the Rajmahal hills in Jharkhand. From his description, the hills appeared impenetrable, and we cannot penetrate into the hills because it was very dense, a zone where few travellers ventured, an area that signified danger, because these hills are very dangerous because of wild animals and on the arrogant nature of the Paharias. Wherever he went, people were hostile, apprehensive of officials, and unwilling to talk to them. In many instances, they deserted their villages and absconded. Buchanan's journal gives us tantalizing glimpses of three hill folk in the early 19th century. Among them, two are very, very prominent. One is the Paharias and there is the Santals. His journal was written as a diary of places he visited, people he encountered, and practices what he saw.
मानव प्रकृति द्वारा पैदा किए गए हजारों लाखों जीवों में एक अद्भुत जीव है। सभ्यताओं के विकास के साथ कुछ जनजातियां विकसित होती गईं और कुछ सभ्यताओं की इस दौड़ में बहुत पीछे रह गईं। सौरिया पहाड़िया एक ऐसी ही जनजाति है। ये झारखंड प्रांत के संथाल परगना क्षेत्र में निवास करती है। कहा जाता है इस जनजाति की उत्पत्ति सांवला पहाड़ से हुई है, इसीलिए इन्हें सौरिया पहाड़िया कहा जाता है। सौरिया पहाड़िया बहुत बहादुर होते हैं। ये अपने दुश्मन का सामना पारंपरिक हथियारों से बड़ी दिलेरी के साथ करते हैं। अनेकों प्रयासों के बावजूद भी कभी सौरिया पहाड़िया जनजाति को गुलामों का जीवन व्यतीत करने के लिए बाध्य नहीं किया जा सका। ये अदम्य साहस के प्रतीक है। जंगल और जीवन
In the eastern regions of the Indian subcontinent lives a tribal community that helped evolve an art form that has taken the women of the country by storm. They call themselves the Shantal, and their craft is called Kanta embroidery. Shantal women would spend days embroidering a single piece of fabric, using brightly colored threads to create beautiful works of art. But although they are brilliant,
This is a village of Santhal in Lower Rajmahal Hills. See how their houses have been arranged because they are all lived in huts and are made with a thatched roof, and then the bamboo sticks of. There is no kacha walls, no brick wall, no stone wall, only the bamboo sticks used to make the walls of these huts. The Santhals, the pioneer settlers who came from Bengal and who came from different parts of the Bengal and settled down in the near Rajmal Hills. This is the residence near the Rajmahal. They used to live very close to the Rajmahal Hills. Buchanan's description about Santhals. Very clever people, they are all, and they lived in huts without fans. Walls of the huts were made with bamboo sticks. They were settled cultivators, lived near Rajmahal. Else, they are not shifting cultivators, they are settled, living at one place, permanently doing the cultivation. In 1810, Buchanan crossed Ganjuria Pahad and found that the Santals had extended cultivation in this area and close to the Rajmahal Hills. Around 1800, they reached here and displaced the Paharias, the original inhabitants of Rajmahal Hills. How did Santals reach the Rajmahal Hills? The Santals had begun to come into Bengal around the 1780s because they settled in the Bengal part of the Rajmahal Hills. Zamindars hired them to reclaim land. This is land reclamation, clearing the jungle and making the land to cultivation. Expand cultivation. British officials invited them to settle in Jungle Mahal because the British did not have good terms with Paharias. They wanted to take the help of Santals. That's why they invited them to come and settle down in the jungle mahals, which is a part of the Rajmahal Hills. Having failed to subdue the Paryas and transform them into settled agriculturists, the British turned to the Santals. These are all Santal community. The Paharias refused to cut forest, resisted touching the plough, because that's why what happened, they did not listen to the English colonial power. They did not like to cut the forest. They refused to cut the forest, and as the British need wood for so many purposes, they vehemently opposed. These are all Santhal tribal people. The Santhals, by contrast, appear to be ideal settlers, clearing forest and ploughing the land with vigor. The Santhal were given land and persuaded to settle in the foothills of Rajmahal Hills. By 1832, a large area of land was demarcated for them, and that is known as Domaine Echo. This is the Santhal area where the Santhal are found in a very large number. This is the chosen area for them. Dominoco, we'll see what is Dominoco, the land of Santhals. By 1832, a large area of land was demarcated as Dominico. This is Dominoco area. The territory was surveyed and mapped, enclosed with boundary pillars. It was separated from both the world of the settled agriculturists of the plains and the Paharias of the hills. After the demarcation of Dominico, Santhal settlements expanded rapidly far and wide. From 40 Santhal villages in the area in 1838, as many as 1,473 villages had come up by 1851. You can see a huge increase of Santhal population. Over the same period, the Santhal population increased from a mere 3,000 to over 82,000. Their population was just 3,000 in the year 1838, but it rose to 82,000 by 1851. After the Santhal settlement here, the Paharias lost their livelihood and prominence. They have to go deeper into the Rajmahal Hills. The Paharias resisted but were ultimately forced to withdraw deeper into the hills. They fought and they wanted to oppose, but they could not succeed. They had to go deeper into the Rajmahal Hills, leaving vast area to the Santhals to look after. The Santhal revolt of 1855-56 is very, very important that we have to discuss in this particular chapter. Santhals fought with a mango, dove and stones, bow and arrow. These are all some important traditional weapons used by Santhal in the revolt of 1855-56. These are all the people just having only their lower, no upper cloth, but one cloth is tied over the head. They are using all, you can say, the big stick attached with some knife and also axes, and then you can say stones, mango duff, and all these important items, bow and arrow, used by them in the revolt of 1857. The revolt was led by Sidhu Manjhi, the leader of the Santhal rebellion. Is a Sidhu Manjhi, the leader of the Santhal rebellion in the year 1855-56. Santhals fight for the Sipais of the British Raj. See how they are fighting using the traditional warfare techniques and opposing they are also using the guerrilla battle techniques to counter the attacks of British. Santhal revolt, which took place in 1855-56 and directed against Jamindars, because money lenders and colonial estate, because they are targeting three people: Jamindars, money lenders and colonial state, that is British state. Sidhu Manjhi, the leader of the Santhal rebellion. What are the causes of the revolt? The foremost cause is heavy taxes levied by colonial government, and they are confiscating their lands, and they are encircling the forest area, and they are bringing so many forest laws that also made them to suffer higher rates of interest charged by the money lenders. Money lenders means those who are giving lend money on interest. They charge heavy rates of interest for them. That's why they opposed money lenders also. Control of Jamindars over the Domino Cove area. Jamindars were given Domino Cove area to collect taxes, but the Jamindars, they wanted to extend their influence in this area. That's why they are not happy with the Jamindari's attitude. They also opposed the Jamindars, and also they opposed the draconian colonial laws which were imposed to punish and to suppress the Santals here. These are the some important causes we have to discuss about the revolt of Santhal in the year 1855-56. What are the consequences? The revolt was crushed, its leaders were arrested, and its followers were kept in the prison, jails, and then they were all tortured and taken into prison. An inhuman treatment was made against them. Villages were burned, almost all villages, there is more than 500 villages were burned by the colonialists to eradicate them. The rebellion changed the perception of the Santals. Santhal Pargana was created. This is the next important consequence. A new province was created, that is called Santhal Pargana, bringing all the villages of Santhal. These are all, you can say, some important consequences of the revolt of Santhal revolt.